In a futuristic city filled with towering skyscrapers and neon lights, a young girl with bright pink hair is running away from a mysterious enemy. She is in the middle of a daring escape when she gets a message from an ally asking if she managed to get hold of an important key. She confirms her success but is interrupted when a group of robots with heavy weapons appears. During the encounter, she gets injured in her leg. However, she activates a special ability that makes her invisible, allowing her to slip away from her attackers. When she reaches a safe point, she finds a small robot waiting anxiously for her. She quickly hands over the key to the robot, but just then, one of the pursuing robots reappears, ready to strike. Before it can attack, a massive, powerful mecha, an ally of the pink-haired girl, intervenes. This creates a distraction, and she seizes the chance to run again. But her escape isn't easy. The robot fires rockets at her, and she is hit, sustaining serious injuries that cause her to fall from a bridge. Meanwhile, in a calmer part of the city, a young student named Shu Aoma is on his way to school. He rides the train and is later joined by his best friend, who tells him that soldiers are scattered everywhere. The friend explains that there was a major attack in the city last night, leading to a heavy military presence. At school, Shu recalls a devastating virus outbreak that struck Japan a decade earlier, causing immense destruction and forcing Japan to rely on other nations for support and rebuilding. After classes end, Shu decides to explore a mysterious, rundown area in the city where few people go. There, he unexpectedly encounters the pink-haired girl, who seems frightened when she notices him. Her robot immediately acts to protect her, knocking Shu down and causing his food to spill. Despite this, Shu realizes that she looks hungry and offers her his food. They share a brief meal, and Shu tries to start a conversation. He recognizes her as a singer from a popular band. She introduces herself as Inori and asks Shu if he would take her robot to a certain place in the city. While showing him a small craft she made from yarn, a group of soldiers suddenly arrives. Inori attempts to flee but is captured and violently beaten by the officers. Shu tries to help, but when the soldiers claim she is involved in the recent attack, he hesitates and hides. The military takes her away, leaving Shu feeling ashamed and powerless for not helping her. After the soldiers leave, the robot that Inori had asked him to deliver displays a map with directions. Determined to fulfill her request, Shu decides to follow the map and take the robot to the marked destination. Along the way, however, he is ambushed by a group of thieves who try to steal the robot. Although Shu is attacked and outnumbered, he refuses to give up. Then, a blonde boy named Guy appears, along with his crew, and quickly defeats the robbers, who flee. One of Guy's team members takes the robot from Shu. Guy then questions him about Inori, but before they can continue, there is a loud explosion. Guy learns that soldiers are approaching, leaving a trail of destruction behind. The soldiers engage in brutal actions, eliminating anyone in their path. A mecha soon arrives to attack Guy's group, forcing Guy to instruct Shu to protect the key and find Inori to save her. Elsewhere, Inori is held captive in an overturned trailer, a result of a missile strike by a mecha. She struggles to free herself but is soon confronted by a group of mecha who aim their weapons at her. At that critical moment, Shu arrives and courageously jumps in to rescue her. The key she had been carrying activates, revealing a powerful weapon hidden within her. Shu draws the weapon, a sword with immense strength, and uses it to shield himself and Inori from the mecha's attacks. With one swift strike, he obliterates their enemies, securing their escape. After seeing the power of Shu's weapon, the military grows worried and sends more robots to attack him. Shu does his best to fight back, destroying some missiles in midair. But one explosion sends him flying into a nearby building. Observing the battle, Guy decides to step in and topples a building onto the enemy mecha, pinning it down. With this opportunity, Shu uses the sword to defeat the mecha and then rushes to check on Inori. When the fight is over, the sword disappears back inside Inori. Thanks to Guy's help, they successfully escape the area. Elsewhere, one of Guy's allies, a young girl piloting a mecha, faces a fierce attack from another robot controlled by Yan, the son of a high-ranking military commander. Yan joins the mission to capture Inori, asserting his authority due to his father's position, even though some squad leaders hesitate to accept him. Later, Shu stands with Guy and Inori on a rooftop. Guy scolds Inori for not bringing him the key herself, as planned. Shu steps in to defend her, insisting that she tried her best. Guy, however, points out that Inori's mistake was letting Shu gain the key's power. At this moment, it's revealed that the key is called the Void Genome, a rare biological weapon designed to unlock a person's inner power, transforming it into a weapon. Originally, Guy was supposed to wield this power, but instead, Shu now possesses it, giving him the power of a king. He explains that the Void Genome is one of 3 in existence, and its ability is unique and potent, just like Inori's sword. Following this revelation, Shu has no choice but to join Guy and Inori in their fight against the military. Soon, Guy receives troubling news from one of his allies. Yan and his forces have taken over a building and are holding over 100 civilians hostage. Determined to save them, Guy gathers the entire rebellion for a meeting and forms a plan to raid the building and rescue the captives. During the mission, Shu and Inori sneak into the building through the air ducts. Once inside, they see the military brutally abusing the hostages, claiming that the civilians are infected with a virus. This justifies the soldiers' cruelty since they can mistreat and even kill the hostages without facing punishment. Just as the military begins to execute some of the captives, the rebellion launches an attack, diverting Yan's attention by making him chase a decoy truck. While Yan is distracted, Guy's forces surround the commander of the operation, aiming rockets at him. Realizing the situation, the commander warns Guy that he has planted bombs underneath the city capable of massive destruction. He demands to speak with the rebellion's leader. Guy confronts him directly, and the commander insists that Guy should surrender and return the stolen Void Genome. Guy refuses, prompting the commander to threaten him with an arsenal of laser weapons. In response, Shu steps forward, preparing the next stage of their plan. Using his sword, Shu draws out the power of the Void Genome, which materializes a giant cannon from his inner strength. Just as the commander's lasers are fired, Shu activates a powerful shield around the rebellion, which causes the laser beams to bounce back, destroying the military's forces and their weapons. With this, the rebellion successfully defeats the military and saves the hostages. After the battle, Guy praises Shu for his bravery and asks him to join their rebellion, a request that Shu eagerly accepts. The next day, Shu reflects on the relief and satisfaction he feels for rescuing Inori. During class, his teacher announces a new student, who turns out to be Inori, leaving Shu surprised yet pleased to see her again. Upon seeing Inori arrive as a new student, Shu is shocked, especially as she is a famous idol. His classmates can't hold back their excitement and swarm her with questions, all but Shu, who wonders why she is there. Noticing this, Shu's best friend, Yahiro, steps in to help calm down the excited class and let her settle in. Later, during gym class, one of Shu's friends, who calls himself Inori's biggest fan, mentions how amazing she looks. Shu responds, saying she seems almost unreal, which offends the friend, who snaps back at him. That evening, as Shu approaches his house, he's startled to see Inori already there, casually opening the door with her hand. Shu can't hide his shock and immediately questions her, but she says nothing and simply walks inside. Following her, Shu accidentally stumbles over her small robot companion. When they reach the living room, Shu finally asks why she's in his house. Inori calmly replies that the rebellion decided she would stay with him for protection, meaning she'll be living with him now. Meanwhile, at a military meeting, the leaders discuss how to handle the rebellion. Shu's mother, Haruka, who works as an assistant to one of the high-ranking officials, suggests deploying a new squadron of genetically modified soldiers to stop the rebellion. Back at home, Shu worries about how to explain Inori's sudden presence to his mother. Noticing his concern, Inori reassures him that she has already figured out his mother's schedule, so everything is under control. Just then, the doorbell rings, and Shu opens it to find Yahiro. Yahiro mentions that Shu seemed down at school, so he rented a movie so they could hang out. Before they can start, Inori appears and says she has an important message for Shu, asking him to come with her. Shu promises to explain everything about Inori later and leaves with her. Inori leads Shu to Guy, where Shu questions why she was sent to stay with him. Guy explains it's for Shu's safety. One of the civilians taken hostage during a recent battle turned out to be a student from Shu's school, meaning they could recognize Shu and report him to the military. To address this risk, Guy asks Shu and Inori to find out the identity of the person who saw Shu. Shu argues it'll be tough to identify the witness among thousands of students, but Guy explains that Shu can use the power of the Void Genome, allowing him to reveal others' inner abilities. The next day, Shu and Inori come up with a plan to identify people's abilities, hoping to find the witness. But when Shu tries to use the void power on one of the girls, nothing happens. Instead, he accidentally touches her talents, which embarrasses them both and earns Shu teasing from classmates who witnessed the incident. Later, he and Inori brainstorm why the void didn't work and conclude that he needs to make direct eye contact to unlock someone's ability. Though Shu feels nervous, Inori's encouragement convinces him to try again. The next day, following Inori's advice, Shu makes eye contact with another student and successfully activates his void power, summoning a futuristic motorbike. Unfortunately, it turns out this isn't the person they're looking for. Shu grows exhausted after checking multiple students with no luck. Inori explains that they're searching for someone whose void power manifests as a pair of scissors, as each void reflects a person's fears and insecurities. Curious, Shu asks why Inori's void takes the form of a sword, but before she can answer, the girl Shu accidentally touched approaches, chasing him in anger. Yahiro jumps in to rescue Shu, helping him hide in the school gym. During their conversation, Shu realizes that Yahiro himself might be the person they're looking for, as he hints at his fear of scissors. When Shu confronts him, Yahiro loses control and attacks him, but Shu manages to defend himself by manifesting his own void, a pair of scissors. Seeing Yahiro as a threat, Inori is ready to take drastic action and eliminate him, but Shu stops her, saying he doesn't want to lose his best friend. Although Inori doesn't understand, Shu convinces her that killing Yahiro isn't the solution. After a heart-to-heart with Yahiro, they agree to keep everything secret and reassure Guy that the situation is under control. That evening, Shu and Inori return home on the train. Inori expresses her interest in staying with Shu to learn more about friendship. Unexpectedly, the train halts and soldiers surround Shu, the doors opening to reveal Yahiro, who betrays him by pushing him forward, leading to Shu's arrest by the military. After Shu's arrest, Inori tries to stop the train to help him, but a rebellion agent stops her, saying Guy ordered her not to interfere. Shu is taken in a police truck to a prison within the military barracks, where he is interrogated by a high-ranking officer named Makoto. Makoto questions Shu about his connection to Guy, as they were seen together during the recent battle. When Shu refuses to cooperate, Makoto decides to take him to another building, saying he has something to show him. As they walk, Shu notices increased security in the barracks due to a threat from Guy, who has announced a plan to rescue Shu. During their walk, Makoto explains to Shu that Yahiro, his friend, betrayed him due to financial pressures. Yahiro was secretly involved in illegal activities, specifically selling drugs, to make money. He turned Shu in to claim a reward for capturing any rebellion member, thinking it would help with his financial struggles. In a special room with people infected by a deadly virus, Yahiro reveals that his younger brother is also infected and requires costly treatment. Makoto provides further information about the virus, known as Lost Christmas, which caused chaos 10 years ago. He explains how the military managed to contain the outbreak and suppress the resulting riots. Makoto tries to convince Shu that the military is the right side to support, but Shu stands firm, disturbed by the cruelty he has witnessed from them. Finally, Makoto reveals the military's plans to attack the rebellion to capture a member named Kenji, who was arrested under suspicion of terrorism. Makoto hands Shu a transmitter, threatening that he will arrest Inori if Shu does not cooperate. He tells Shu to report Guy's location once he finds him, forcing Shu to make a difficult choice. Meanwhile, Inori feels guilty for being unable to save Shu and wonders how she can help. In another scene, Shu is taken to a room to meet his lawyer, who surprisingly turns out to be Guy in disguise. With the help of Tsugumi, a hacker from the rebellion, they disable the surveillance devices in the room. Guy tells Shu that they plan to rescue a rebellion member that night and need his assistance. He explains that they will create a distraction by causing a blackout, allowing Shu to find Kenji and use his void ability to escape. Though Shu feels hesitant about helping, the rebellion's plan is set into motion. Explosives create chaos, and a blackout distracts the military, while the rebellion begins bombarding the barracks with missiles. Guy continues to urge Shu to carry out his part of the mission. Inori manages to communicate with Shu, telling him she's coming to rescue him, which angers Guy as it goes against his orders. Shu decides to escape to find Inori, but encounters a mecha blocking his path. Ias, a skilled rebellion mecha pilot, appears just in time and saves Shu. She scolds him for causing Inori to disobey orders and warns him that if anything happens to Guy, she will kill him herself. Shu continues to navigate the chaos and eventually finds Guy and the person they were sent to rescue, Kenji. Recognizing Kenji as their target, Shu leaps toward him, using the power of the Void Genome to unlock Kenji's inner void, a weapon that manipulates gravity. Using this powerful weapon, Shu easily takes down a mecha in his path, but they soon find themselves surrounded by more enemy robots. At that critical moment, Inori arrives to help. Shu unleashes the full power of Kenji's void, creating anti-gravity bubbles that allow him to reach Inori. When he gets to her, he unlocks the powerful sword within her and uses it to destroy the surrounding mecha in a thrilling display of power. After defeating the military's forces, Shu, Inori, Kenji, and Guy manage to escape the barracks together. Outside, Guy once again invites Shu to join the rebellion. Though Shu is still unsure if he can fully trust them, he decides to accept the offer, realizing that his place may be with the rebellion after all. As Shu heads to the rebellion's base, he remembers the pen Makoto gave him. This pen allows him to secretly alert the military whenever he is near Guy, but Shu feels conflicted about using it since he's still uncertain of the rebellion's true motives. When they reach their destination, a large library, they are greeted by Shibungi, a high-ranking rebellion officer, who assures them that both Inori and Kenji are safe and healthy. Guy then announces to the group that Shu is officially joining their ranks and will take on a key role in their operations because of his skill with the Void Genome. Their next mission is set for 3 days later, and Ias is assigned to train Shu. As Shu's training starts, he notices that Ayase has taken the pen Makoto gave him. When he asks her to return it, she proposes a challenge instead. If he can pass a set of difficult trials within the week, she'll give it back. Shu agrees, and during the training, he crosses paths with Ayase, who is practicing with a gun while Inori gives Shu a shooting lesson. However, an awkward moment between them makes Ayase tease him by calling him a pervert. In their conversations, Shu learns about the Leukocyte weapon, the rebellion's primary target for their next mission. Throughout his training, Shu meets other rebellion members, including Arugo and Kyle. He discovers that Kyle is a huge fan of Guy, which surprises him as he has always seen Guy as self-centered. After a long day of training, Shu hears Inori singing and decides to visit her. During their conversation, he asks her why she joined the rebellion. Inori reveals that it was Guy's idea and that he even told her to say she belonged to him. Shu suggests they both leave the rebellion, but Inori declines, explaining that the rebellion saved her. Shu feels dejected when he sees Inori enter a room with Guy and walks away feeling rejected. Ayase sees him, understands what happened, and encourages him to give his best effort in the next day's test, hinting that if he succeeds, he might learn more about the group's secrets. The next day, Shu's test requires him to reach a target guarded by Ayase and her mecha. To pass, he must confront her directly. Shu uses the Void Power, which manifests as a wand that generates a force field, immobilizing Ayase's mecha. Successfully completing the test, Shu officially becomes a full member of the rebellion. However, their victory is short-lived as news arrives that the military has launched an attack on Guy using the Leukocyte weapon, which causes massive destruction in part of the city. It turns out that the Leukocyte weapon is actually a powerful satellite hovering over Japan, capable of firing extremely destructive energy beams. This revelation reinforces the rebellion's determination, and Shu realizes just how high the stakes have become in the battle against the military. After the recent attack, Guy finally contacts the team, reassuring them that he survived, but sadly, the rest of the squad didn't make it, and they lost all their supplies. Faced with this dire situation, Guy decides to launch a counterattack against the military. The group quickly sets up a camp near the attack zone, and from there, they begin planning an assault on the base that controls the powerful Leukocyte weapon. Their main goal is to seize control of the weapon's energy core, but it's guarded by a strong force field. If anyone touches the field, a security protocol will activate, locking down the weapon. To bypass this, Shu's power and Kenji's gravity control ability are essential. Guy warns the team of the high risks involved, making it clear that not everyone may survive the mission. Hearing this, Shu volunteers to go alone, wanting to shield his teammates from danger. However, his friends disagree, as they've all committed to the mission together. Shu feels embarrassed by his friend's determination to help, so he leaves to gather his thoughts. While alone, he wonders if he should use the communication pen Makoto gave him to call for backup. Just then, Inori finds him and tells him she has a plan to help, asking him to trust her and follow her lead. Meanwhile, in another scene, Makoto is seen talking to a senior military commander. The commander reveals he already knows about the rebellion's plan to attack later that day, and that Yan's team is preparing to defend against it. Elsewhere, Guy is grappling with his injuries from the last attack, which left him weak and questioning the morality of his actions. He wonders if everything he's done so far has truly been worth it. During his reflection, he reveals that after the Leukocytes attack, Kaio, his close partner, was severely injured and would not survive. Guy made the difficult decision to end her suffering. Unexpectedly, Shu overhears Guy's words. Feeling angered by Guy's willingness to let others sacrifice themselves, including Inori, Shu confronts him. In response, Guy explains that his true goal is to give people hope, not to control them. This perspective makes Shu reconsider his anger, and he eventually reconciles with Guy. With their differences set aside, the team prepares to attack the military base. Ayase and other rebellion members create a distraction, drawing the attention of much of the military and Yan's forces. Using the diversion, Guy, Shu, Inori, and Kenji successfully infiltrate the base and reach the control core. They're about to activate Kenji's gravity weapon when Yan confronts them, launching a fierce attack. Guy steps up to handle Yan, allowing Shu to continue with the mission. However, Yan's reckless attack causes major damage to the core, which destabilizes the satellite and sends it hurtling toward Tokyo at a dangerous speed. The team narrowly escapes the base as chaos ensues. In a moment of quick thinking, Guy realizes a solution and asks Shu for the pen Makoto gave him. Guy reveals that he's always known the pen's true purpose. Just then, Makoto arrives, and Guy proposes a deal. If Makoto erases Shu's entire criminal record, he'll help save the city from the falling satellite. Guy explains that the pen isn't just a communication tool, it also activates another Leukocyte satellite. When the pen is activated, this second satellite will fire at its location, allowing them to use it to destroy the falling satellite. However, the person in the satellite's path will need to sacrifice themselves. Guy volunteers for the sacrifice, prepared to give his life to save Tokyo. Shu feels helpless, unable to change Guy's decision. At that moment, someone who appears to be Inori arrives, offering her void weapon to Shu. He takes it, and it transforms into a powerful energy cannon. With it, Shu unleashes a massive energy blast, destroying the satellite before it crashes into Tokyo, sparing the city from disaster. After Makoto keeps his word and clears Shu's criminal record, Shu is able to return to high school. Even though his name is cleared, some classmates still judge him for being arrested. However, Arisa, the school president, steps in and defends him. She tells everyone that Shu was only taken in for questioning, not for anything serious. With this explanation, his classmates start to relax and even ask him questions about what happened. Shu feels grateful to Arisa for standing up for him and helping to ease the tension. Later, Shu catches up on his schoolwork with his friends. During their conversation, Hare, his best friend, mentions that Yahiro hasn't come back to school since his arrest, which confuses Shu. Out of curiosity, he asks Inori if she knows anything about Yahiro's situation. Inori is surprised by Shu's concern for Yahiro, given that he betrayed him. This leads to an awkward silence between them. Just then, Shu's guardian, Haruka, arrives home and is surprised to find Inori there. As Shu tries to explain why Inori is visiting, Haruka chooses to lighten the mood by sending Shu out to get a cake, giving her a chance to talk to Inori in private. Over dinner, they calmly discuss the situation. Meanwhile, Guy meets with his rebellion team and hears from Shibungi that their resources are running low after the recent attack with the Lucasite weapon. Realizing that they need more support, Guy decides it's time to find a new ally who can supply the rebellion with necessary resources. On another note, we see Arisa, who belongs to a wealthy family with a strong influence in the city. Her family is organizing a big event to find a non-governmental organization to partner with, a plan that attracts attention from the military leaders, seeing this gathering as a possible threat. They secretly plot to disrupt the event. The celebration takes place on a large ship out at sea, and both Guy and Shu secretly attend, aiming to speak with Ayase's father to gain his support for the rebellion. When they arrive, Shu realizes that his mother is also at the party, so he quickly hides, hoping to avoid her seeing him. While moving through the crowd, he runs into Arisa, who recognizes him and tries to start a conversation. Just as she's about to catch up with Shu, Guy steps in and distracts her. After a brief exchange, Guy captures Ayase's father's attention. During this time, the military prepares to launch missiles toward the ship to sabotage the event. Shu's teammates inform him of the incoming attack, so Shu hurries to warn Guy, who's in the middle of talking to Ayase's father. Working together, they devise a quick plan to protect the ship. Guy uses a clever strategy to convince Arisa to come with him to the ship's outer deck, where Shu can use the power of his ki to manifest Ayase's void, which is an orb capable of creating powerful energy shields. Thanks to Shu's efforts, the energy shields stop all of the incoming missiles, saving everyone on board. Later, a mysterious envelope arrives for Shu's mother, containing an old photo of her, Shu, and Inori together from when they were children. Strangely, neither Shu nor Inori remembers this moment. Meanwhile, Shu gears up for a school trip organized by the academy. When he mentions it to his mother, she jokes about not wanting to be left alone and suggests that he could use the trip as an opportunity to visit his father's grave. In reality, the entire trip is part of Guy's plan. He has secretly arranged for Shu, Inori, and some of Shu's classmates to infiltrate a military base. Guy places them in a luxurious mansion, courtesy of one of his contacts. Among the group is Sauda, an essential member for this mission, who possesses a special ability needed for their infiltration. Sauda, however, continuously teases Shu by implying that he and Inori must be a couple since they live together. To change the subject, Sauda suggests they all go to the beach, and the group agrees. At the beach, Shu sets up an umbrella and begins to think about how uncomfortable it is to share this mission with Sauda, who often comes across as irritating. Just then, he notices Inori nearby, wearing a stunning swimsuit. Shu becomes captivated by her appearance, unable to look away. Hare, who secretly has feelings for Shu, sees his reaction to Inori and tries to capture his attention by inviting him to swim with her. Meanwhile, Shibungi and others from the rebellion observe from a distance, quietly ensuring the mission stays on track. Later, back at the mansion, the girls notice that Shu is missing and learn from Kanon that he went ahead to take care of something. Sauda, meanwhile, stays back, trying to take photos on the beach. He sees Hare's hat blowing in the wind and picks it up, giving it back to her with a compliment. Shortly after, Shu finds himself at a cemetery, where he reveals that this is his father's resting place. He quietly lays flowers on the grave, reflecting on his father, who passed away 10 years ago on Christmas. Just then, Guy appears and engages in a conversation, sharing details about Shu's father's past. Guy reveals that Shu's father was a professor and one of the early pioneers in fighting the virus. Shu admits he knows little about his father because he avoids asking his mother, Haruka, as it might hurt her. Guy then takes Shu to a cliff overlooking what seems to be a hidden military base. Guy explains the mission. They must infiltrate the base and retrieve a stone connected to the apocalyptic virus, using both Shu's power and Sauda's ability. Realizing that persuading Sauda to help may be challenging, Guy suggests using Inori to gain his cooperation, as Sauda is a huge fan of Inori's band. Although Shu is frustrated by this idea, Guy insists that it's necessary for the mission. Meanwhile, the girls enjoy a bath together, with Hair feeling thrilled to be on a trip with Shu. When Inori joins them, they notice something unusual about her skin, which Kanon finds intriguing and starts to examine closely. Hair, however, feels a pang of jealousy as she worries about Shu's feelings for Inori. Back in the living room, Shu and Sauda talk. Sauda asks Shu if there's truly nothing romantic between him and Inori. When Shu denies it, Sauda expresses interest in asking Inori out. Seeing this as a chance to complete the mission, Shu encourages Inori to agree to spend time with Sauda to lead him to the base. Inori accepts and soon goes for a nighttime walk with Sauda under the stars. As they rest, Sauda shares a video he made for her, expressing his admiration. Shu watches this from a distance, feeling jealous. Acting impulsively, Shu uses his power to draw out his void and awkwardly attempts to confess his feelings for Inori. At this moment, the rebellion members who have been observing them reveal themselves, laughing at Shu for his premature void activation. They decide to begin the mission and head toward a hidden entrance to the base. Using Sauda's void, a special camera capable of opening concealed doors, they gain access to the base. Just then, a mysterious man enters the base using a security card, triggering the alarm and heightening security. Despite this, Shu and his team continue to advance, disabling traps and barriers with their voids until they finally reach the chamber where the stone is supposed to be kept. However, they are shocked to discover that the stone is missing. Furious, Guy decides to withdraw the team. Later, it is revealed that the stone was taken by the mysterious man, who is actually Keidu, a high-ranking military commander. Keidu is later seen at Shu's father's grave, paying his respects. After the failed mission, Sauda regains consciousness and finds himself with Shu, who expresses frustration that Sauda never told him about his feelings for Inori. This leads to a heated argument, but they eventually manage to make amends and end on friendly terms. The mission on the island concludes, and the team heads back home by boat, their relationship slightly reshaped by everything they experienced on this journey. Yahiro has escaped with his sick brother and found shelter in an old church. Just as they begin to settle down, Makoto, Fo, and several soldiers appear, forcing Yahiro and his brother to run once more. Meanwhile, back at school, Kanon and Hair talk about Yahiro's sudden disappearance, wondering where he might have gone. Shu arrives in the room, accidentally dropping a teapot, which flusters Hair as she has been thinking about him a lot recently. Noticing this, Kanon suggests that Shu and Hair go shopping together, intending to give them some alone time. As they take the subway to the shopping district, Hair starts thinking about how she might confess her feelings to Shu. Suddenly, the train jerks to a stop, and Hair stumbles, falling onto Shu's chest. Embarrassed, she considers telling him her feelings. But just then, a hooded figure rushes into the train. It's Yahiro, who clumsily drops some medicine in his haste. Shu quickly recognizes his old friend and approaches him. Yahiro, however, makes a joke about how close Shu and Hair seem, which only adds to the tension. Shu, realizing he needs to talk privately with Yahiro, asks Hair to continue the shopping trip alone. Yahiro takes Shu to a rundown hideout where his brother is resting. He explains how they managed to escape during the attack on the military base. At the same time, Makoto is watching them from afar, readying a plan to capture both Yahiro and Shu. During their conversation, Yahiro asks Shu for some money to buy food and supplies, as he and his brother have been struggling. Instead of giving him cash, Shu contacts a friend, arranging for a team to pick them up and offer help. Yahiro is surprised Shu would want to help him, especially after everything that happened. Shu clarifies that his decision is for Yahiro's brother, and he intends to keep his word. As Shu and Yahiro prepare to leave, Makoto's soldiers ambush them. Realizing escape is almost impossible, Shu asks Yahiro to allow him to use his power, known as a void, to fight back. At first, Yahiro hesitates, accusing Shu of betraying them. Offended, Shu insists that he would never do such a thing and that Yahiro is the real traitor. However, Shu still promises to protect Yahiro's brother, which convinces Yahiro to allow Shu to use his void. Just as Shu pulls out Yahiro's void, Yahiro's brother, who is watching, misunderstands the situation and thinks Shu is attacking his sibling. Suddenly, Yan, a soldier in a large robotic machine, arrives and starts launching attacks on Shu using energy-seeking hooks. Shu successfully destroys one hook, but Yan launches several more. During the chaos, one of these hooks accidentally strikes Yahiro's brother. As Shu and Yan stare in shock, Makoto comments that the boy's illness seems to emit a strange energy similar to the void's. Unexpectedly, the virus within Yahiro's brother begins spreading into Yan's robotic machine, corrupting it. The virus takes control of the robot, causing it to malfunction, damaging other nearby mechas. The infected robot, now under the virus's influence, ignores Shu and moves toward Yahiro. Shu quickly jumps in to defend Yahiro, but as he does, a portal-like opening appears, resembling the ones Shu uses to access voids. Shu is then transported into what seems to be Yahiro's brother Jun's memories. Inside this memory world, Shu encounters Jun, who shows him scenes from his childhood with Yahiro. During this encounter, Jun reveals his deep suffering from the virus and how he feels like a burden to Yahiro. Jun then begs Shu to end his life to put an end to his pain. Realizing the toll the disease has taken on Jun, Shu reluctantly agrees to do what Jun asks. When Shu returns to the real world, he finds himself inside the damaged robot with Jun, who briefly wakes up and then fades away. Soon after, the robot shuts down, and Shu leaves the building, carrying the heavy weight of what he had to do. Outside, Yahiro regains consciousness and, realizing something has happened, asks Shu about his brother. Shu simply replies that Jun has passed away and that he was the one who ended his suffering. The story shifts to a moment when Shu encounters the rebellion members carrying out a mission. Guy instructs Shu to attack, which requires using Inori's void. However, Shu is haunted by memories of Yahiro and Jun's traumatic incident, which has shaken him deeply. Distracted and unable to wield his powers, Shu chooses to flee, causing the mission to be abandoned by the rebellion. Following this, Shu has a vivid dream. In the dream, a girl with pink hair, resembling Inori, stands amidst a fire and asks Shu to promise to bring happiness to her sister. Shu wakes up, startled, realizing it was only a dream. In his hiding place, he checks his phone, noticing missed calls and messages from the rebellion. Just then, Hare shows up with breakfast and asks Shu why he's isolating himself and why he refuses to go home. Shu avoids her questions, and soon he receives another call, which he ignores. The call is from Inori, who has been worried about him and tells Guy about Shu's behavior. But Guy is busy meeting with Ayase's family to gather information about the stone he failed to retrieve. During the conversation, Guy learns that the military will soon transport the stone by plane. Keidu, who originally handed the stone to the military, was arrested after doing so. The next day, Shu returns to school, but memories of recent trauma resurface, causing him to feel unsettled around his classmates. Overwhelmed, he retreats to his hiding spot. Ayase finds him there and scolds him, urging him to return to his usual life. However, Guy shows up and dismisses Ayase's efforts as pointless. With no other choice, Guy pulls out a gun and threatens Shu, telling him that if he doesn't agree to join the mission to retrieve the stone, he will be eliminated. Shu, still shaken, refuses to go, expressing his resentment toward the power he possesses. Frustrated, Guy fires a warning shot to intimidate Shu, but Shu remains resolute. In the end, Guy walks away, making it clear that Shu is no longer part of the rebellion. Shu eventually returns home, where he finds Inori waiting for him. He attempts to apologize for ignoring her, but Inori quietly offers him a song she wrote to comfort him. As Inori approaches to hand him the song, Shu is struck by another traumatic flashback and reacts by knocking the song from her hand, calling her a monster. Hurt, Inori starts to cry and says goodbye before leaving the house. After she leaves, Shu notices she had also prepared a small meal for him, though it was slightly undercooked. These small gestures overwhelm Shu, and he begins to cry. Soon after, the military prepares to transport the stone. Yan, one of the soldiers assigned to guard it, waits to meet his father, a general who is in charge of transferring the stone. While waiting, Yan accidentally witnesses his father in a private moment with his secretary. Meanwhile, the rebellion prepares their next move to intercept the stone. During these preparations, Guy, receiving medical treatment, speaks with Inori. Inori asks Guy if he thinks she's a monster, clearly affected by Shu's words. Ayase tries to comfort Inori, telling her not to take Shu's words to heart, and then asks if she has feelings for him, making Inori question her emotions. Elsewhere, Keidu has a tense conversation with Shu's mother about the stolen stone. During this exchange, Keidu reveals details about Shu's connection to the power of the key and his involvement with the rebellion. He brings up Inori, subtly questioning Shu's mother's trust in her. With everything in place, the rebellion initiates their mission to intercept the plane carrying the stone. They position themselves strategically, prepared for the operation. As the general approaches the room where the stone is held, the rebels silently advance toward the plane. However, Makoto has anticipated their attack and orders the military to inject themselves with a vaccine as a precaution. Despite this, Guy and his team manage to reach the plane and set off an explosive to open the cockpit, only to discover it's empty with no pilots in sight. Realizing too late that they've fallen into a trap, they see a sign confirming it. At that moment, Makoto activates a device that triggers the stone to emit a strange purple energy. Meanwhile, Shu, who is with Hair, asks to stay close to her and, in a moment of vulnerability, mentions that he knows she has feelings for him. Offended, Hair slaps him, telling him not to treat her as a replacement for Inori. She admits she's been aware of everything Shu did to Hiro and his brother but had still tried to be there for him. As Hair starts crying, Shu tries to apologize, but suddenly, the sky darkens as the stone, which was actually a key, activates a massive tower that sends out radio waves, spreading a virus. Many people, including Guy on the plane, become infected. It turns out that this was all part of Keido's plan, with Makoto executing his orders. The rebels scramble to escape, but they are now under attack by the military. As the situation escalates, Guy suffers severely from the virus, and Inori does her best to help him. Meanwhile, the military commander finds himself at the location where the key was activated, and the virus starts transforming everyone in the vicinity. At this critical moment, Yan arrives in his mecha, determined to save his father. However, upon seeing his father with another woman, Yan is filled with rage and decides to kill him. As a result of this power struggle, Keido steps up and takes command as the new general. During the chaos, when a soldier attacks Makoto, Shu's mother seizes the chance to escape. Meanwhile, Tsugumi contacts Shu to inform him that the rescue plan has failed and that Guy and Inori are still trapped at the airport. Faced with this urgent situation, Shu resolves to gather his friends to help rescue Guy and Inori. He plans to use their vacuums to reach them, but Yahiro objects, claiming that Shu only wants to use them as tools. The other boys are confused by this tension. To clarify his intentions, Shu explains the power of the key to his friends and asks Hair for her assistance. He extracts Hair's void, which turns out to be bandages with healing abilities. After apologizing for having previously used the others' voids without their consent, Shu explains why he needs their help, and his companions agree to support him in the rescue mission. In a different scene, Keido uses the key to unlock a door and enters with Makoto. At the same time, Guy and Inori, who have just met Haruka, head toward a tower. Their plan is to broadcast a song that could potentially stop the virus from spreading. Meanwhile, the rest of the rebels fight fiercely against the military. Inori begins to sing her song, and as she does, the virus starts to fade away from the infected people. At this moment, Shu and his friends arrive at the airport but find themselves immediately under attack. Shu uses Iace's void to create a protective shield for the vehicle they are in, helping them overcome the first wave of military resistance. However, the military destroys part of the bridge they need to cross. With Hair's void, they manage to repair the bridge and continue their advance. After battling several mechas, they finally reach Inori. Just when they think they are safe, Yan attacks them in his mecha, overturning their vehicle and trapping Shu and his friends. In a brave act, the hero gives his void to Shu, enabling him to defeat Yan. With renewed determination, Shu rushes to Inori, believing they have succeeded. However, just as everything seems to settle, a portal opens behind Inori. Out of the portal emerges a boy named Yu, who also possesses the power of the key. Yu uses Inori's vacuum to launch an attack on Shu, but Guy leaps in front of him, taking the blow for Shu. As Yu takes Inori away, the apocalyptic virus is activated once more, now with even greater power. Guy quickly tells Shu to follow Yu because Yu intends to sacrifice Inori to bring back a person named Mana. Without hesitation, Shu jumps into the portal just before it closes. During the transport, Yu puts Shu into a trance, causing him to remember parts of his past. In these memories, Shu recalls moments from his childhood with his sister, Mana. They see a young boy floating in the water, who turns out to be a younger Guy. They save him and care for him during the summer, forming a strong bond of friendship. These memories were buried deep in Shu's mind, hidden away for a long time. When Shu comes back to the present, he finds himself in a large hall with big stairs. It's here that Keido reveals a shocking truth. Inori is just a vessel created by them to hold Mana's memories. Mana was the first person to touch the apocalyptic stone, which made her infected with the virus. According to Keido, Mana was chosen by an alien race to create a new species after the destruction of humanity. It is revealed that Mana was deeply in love with Shu and chose him to be her mate. However, Shu rejects her, which causes the apocalyptic virus to be unleashed, destroying Mana's body in the process. Despite Shu's attempts to stop Yu, he is easily held back. At that moment, Iace and Guy arrive. Having survived and helped Iace and Makoto reach the ship, they try to stop Yu, but Iace is quickly defeated. Guy then reveals to Shu the truth about the day the virus first spread and unlocks Shu's traumatic memory. This revelation unleashes the full power of Shu's abilities, allowing him to extract voids without making the person unconscious. Shu extracts the void from Guy, and together they fight against Yu and the crystals in order to reach Inori. Guy uses a weapon that reveals Inori's sword, which allows Shu to free Inori's body. Guy moves toward the vessel holding Mana's soul, determined to destroy it and end the virus once and for all. However, he gets severely injured in an act of sacrifice. Guy orders Shu to use the sword to pierce him and destroy Mana. At first, Shu is hesitant, but he ultimately complies, killing Guy along with Mana's soul. As the place begins to collapse around them, Shu and Inori manage to escape. Yet, in the aftermath of their victory, Shu is overwhelmed with grief for the loss of Guy, mourning the friend he has just lost. The weight of his sacrifice hangs heavily on Shu as they escape into an uncertain future. After the military quarantines the area affected by the virus, people are not allowed to leave. The students from the academy decide to stay since most of them live on the outskirts of the city. Ice, one of the students, tries to pick up Shu from the floor but ends up falling off her chair. Two boys approach her, offering help, but Ice, who is usually independent, refuses their assistance. Despite her rejection, the boys continue to annoy her. At that moment, Shu and Inori walk by and see what's happening. Shu steps in to defend Ice. The harassers try to intimidate him, but Tsugumi suddenly appears and delivers a flying kick to one of the boys, taking him down along with Shu. Seeing this, the bullies decide to back off. Shu and the girls want to help Ice, but she insists that they leave her alone. As they walk away, Tsugumi talks to Shu about how he is feeling since Guy's death. Shu explains that after the battle, the rebellion fell apart. Now, Ice, Inori, and Tsugumi are just students trying to find shelter. With many teachers missing at the academy, Shu and the student council president form a group to manage the shelter. The kids feel disheartened because of the violence and vandalism around them, so Shu suggests holding a school festival to lift their spirits. After discussing it, everyone agrees that it's a great idea. Later, Shu starts talking to Yahiro, who shows him his void and hands it over. Yahiro mentions that now Shu can extract voids without the person fainting. Shu expresses his hope that he won't have to use the power of the key anymore. Yahiro reminds him that they must stay alert because the military still poses a threat. The two then head to the area where the festival is being prepared. On their way, they see Tsugumi working in a cafe themed for their class, and she introduces them to Kanon, who is wearing cute puppy dog ears. Shu then goes to find Inori, who is busy with planning the concert, the main event of the festival. Meanwhile, Yan is seen sneaking around among the students in a uniform. He bumps into Tsugumi, who is carrying boxes of costumes and adopts a cocky attitude. Tsugumi makes him help carry the boxes as a kind of punishment but also rewards him with a caramel apple afterward. Later, Yan tells Makoto that most of the rebellion members are at the school and asks him to keep an eye on them. Finally, the long-awaited day of the student festival arrives. Tsugumi works hard to make sure Ice has a good time. However, a group of thugs, who have been robbing during the quarantine, are furious about the festival the students organize. Two of these thugs show up in a blind truck in a mecha provided by Makoto, planning to attack the school. In the meantime, Ice and Tsugumi get into an argument. Tsugumi disconnects Ice from the mecha while Ice is trying to help Guy. Ice accuses Tsugumi, saying that if she hadn't done that, Guy might still be alive. After their fight, Tsugumi leaves, leaving Ice alone. At this moment, Shu arrives and tries to comfort her, but then the thugs start attacking the festival, shooting and destroying everything in their way. Shu rushes to protect Ice, but she falls off her chair. Despite this, Ice insists that she wants to fight and be useful, even though she is disabled. At that moment, Shu's power activates, drawing out Ice's void, which turns out to be robotic legs. These legs give her the ability to fly and grant her great strength. She uses this new power to save Hair from being run over by the armored car, deflecting it and making it crash. With Tsugumi controlling a robot, the thugs are captured, and Shu uses Inori's void to help destroy the enemy mecha, defeating them all. Once the chaos settles, the students go back to enjoying the festival, leading up to Inori's concert. Ice thanks Shu for allowing her to fight against her feelings of emptiness, saying that she feels much better now. However, while they are talking, communications are restored, and a government announcement appears on the screen. It is made by General Kadu, who survived the attack at the tower. He informs all the students that the government has approved new containment measures, which include building high walls that will completely surround the center of Tokyo, where the students are and where the virus first spread. After the recent events, all the students gather for a meeting to discuss how to handle the new walls that are closing off the center of Tokyo. Fear spreads among the students, causing widespread panic. Tensions rise as some students start blaming Arisa, who is trying to calm everyone down by saying that her father will help them. However, many students have lost faith in her, and they suggest electing a new student government president. During the meeting, the student government representatives hand out virus vaccines to everyone. Yahiro points out that Arisa is still being attacked on social media. and Tsugumi shares his opinion that Arisa is not doing a good job as president. This statement leads to an argument, with Sauda defending Arisa against Tsugumi's criticism. Meanwhile, a group of thugs is plotting their revenge and shows off a gun that they are willing to use if necessary. After this, Tsugumi talks to Inori and asks her if she ever feels lonely without parents. Inori responds that she has never felt that way, except when she was separated from Shu. Inori then asks Tsugumi the same question. Tsugumi shares that she has always grown up alone and is used to it, but admits that she misses the other members of the rebellion. After this heart-to-heart, Tsugumi calls Shu, who has been quietly listening in on their conversation. She hands Shu a device she found after their confrontation with the thugs. This device can measure the power levels of people's voids. The boys begin to play with the device, comparing their powers. Shu decides to use it to check Tsugumi's void level and mentions that he has never used his void before. The girls tease Tsugumi as Shu pulls out his own void. At the same time, Kaito is meeting with Makoto to put his plan into action to eliminate the members of the rebellion. He activates a new emergency measure that will gradually reduce the quarantine area, with the military ordered to kill anyone near the edges. This cruel plan results in hundreds of deaths around the wall, and the mecha move closer to the center of the city, causing panic among the students when they hear the news. Makoto also sends a message to the students, offering freedom from the quarantine to anyone who turns in members of the rebellion. This announcement worries Shu, but Hare reassures him that she will help him with his feelings of emptiness if needed. She encourages Shu to run for president of the academy, and he starts to think about whether that would be a good idea. At that moment, Tsugumi, who has recovered from his own struggles, joins the conversation. While they talk, they notice some bullies harassing a girl. The group realizes that members of the rebellion have a specific mark on their arms, and the thugs are searching for these students. This situation makes Shu and Inori nervous, as they could be in danger. Without hesitation, Shu decides to find them. He soon discovers Inori defending herself from some boys trying to grab her. At the same time, Ayase gets caught by the same group of thugs who had harassed her earlier. Tsugumi arrives just in time to save Ayase, but ends up being captured by the bullies as well. The president calls for a meeting in the academy hall to address the crisis. Arisa tries to calm the students and denies the rumors about the rebellion. However, the thugs show up, confirming the rumors by presenting Ayase and Tsugumi as hostages and revealing their tattoos as proof. Despite the girls' struggles, the thugs threaten Tsugumi with a gun. Seeing this, Shu knows he has to step in to protect his friends. He approaches the bullies and stops them, and the other students listen to him when they see his incredible power. Shu confesses that he is a member of the rebellion and warns the thugs that they will face consequences if they harm his friends. He then suggests a plan to resolve the conflict. Later, Shu, Ayase, and Tsugumi are taken to the edge of the wall and handed over to the military by one of the thugs. The thug hopes to be released, but the military decides to shoot Shu and the girls. However, it turns out that this was all part of a plan by Tsugumi using a hologram. Shu uses Tsugumi's vacuum, which can create holographic clones of anyone. He sends the clones out to show the students that the military would not free them if they turned in the rebels. Even with this clever trick, one of the thugs tries to shoot Shu, but Shu quickly reacts by using another student's vacuum to defend himself. He encourages his fellow students to trust in him and promises to protect them with his power. Inspired by Shu's bravery, Yahiro suggests that Shu should run for school president, and the students happily agree. At that moment, Shu officially became the new student president. Afterward, Yahiro proposes a method to better manage the students by ranking them based on the power levels of their voids using the device that Tsugumi found. However, this idea clashes with Shu's belief in inclusivity. He wants every student to feel valued. Although they had already assessed the students' abilities, Shu sees the idea of ranking them as tyrannical. He is determined to keep the students united, especially since the walls are getting closer to the school, and he has been successful in keeping everyone calm so far. Despite this, the school faces shortages of supplies and vaccines, and Yahiro insists that ranking could help prioritize the strongest and most hardworking students for defense against the military. In light of this dilemma, Shu decides to consult his friends about the proposal. Inori encourages him to make the decision he believes is right. Meanwhile, Ayase, Hare, and Tsugumi are in the school baths, where Hare voices her concern about Shu having to make such a significant decision alone. Ayase insists that it is Shu's responsibility as president, and Tsugumi playfully suggests that Hare should hurry up and confess her feelings to Shu, which annoys Hare. Later, Sauda approaches Shu to express his dissatisfaction with the ranking system. Shu agrees that he dislikes the idea as well. Sauda urges him not to accept the proposal. After a humorous exchange where the boys express their thoughts out loud, Shu turns to the rest of the student council to announce his decision. However, he discovers that they are busy counting the virus vaccines and realizes there aren't enough for all the students. At this point, the hero pushes Shu again to implement the ranking, but Shu notices that Sauda is placed in the lowest category. Under pressure from his peers, Shu finally agrees to the ranking system. As Shu walks through the corridors, he encounters Sauda and a group of students ranked at the bottom. They ask Shu to let them use their voids to practice and contribute to the academy. Meanwhile, Yan is on the phone with Makoto, who warns him that supplies are running low and that they need to prepare as the wall is approaching. Yan argues that the students are young and shouldn't be feared, but Makoto reprimands him for not taking action against suspected rebels who approached the wall the day before. He also warns Yan that failure to follow orders could lead to dangerous rumors. After the call, Makoto is seen playing chess with Shibungi. Meanwhile, Shu is hiding in his usual spot when Hare finds him. He confides in her about his sadness over not being able to fulfill his role as president or meet everyone's expectation. Hare comforts him with an embrace and advises him to follow his heart. He attempts to confess his feelings for her, but their moment is interrupted by Kanon, who informs Shu that Sauda and another group of students have left the academy to find vaccines at a nearby hospital. Shu rushes to the hospital to stop them. When he arrives, the students express their eagerness to prove their worth by retrieving the vaccine. However, they are suddenly attacked by military helicopters. Shu quickly orders the students to hide in the buildings while he tries to distract the military. In the chaos, Hare starts healing an injured girl. Sauda asks Hare to fix a nearby car to escape, but this action alerts the enemy mecha. In a desperate attempt to save Hare, Shu runs to her side, and they are both injured in an explosion. Inori and the others arrive to assist, fighting against the helicopters while dodging missiles. Hare, gravely wounded, uses her void to heal Shu before being struck by gunfire, causing her to lose her power. Despite her injuries, she manages to fully heal Shu before confessing her love to him and passing away in his arms. Shu awakens to the tragic reality and embraces Hare, but she disintegrates into crystal and fades away. Overcome with sadness and rage, Shu takes Inori's sword and begins destroying the mecha one by one. When the other students learn about Hare's death, they try to calm Shu down, but he lashes out and strikes Sauda, blaming him for Hare's death. Inori steps in to intervene, and Shu, consumed by grief, decides it's time to separate the strong from the weak. Arugo and Agumo enter the quarantine zone using a helicopter hired by Eris's father, who wants to rescue his daughter and arrange her marriage to a government member to lift the quarantine. When they land, Arugo runs into a group of students from Shu's school who are stealing medicine from another academy. They recognize the rebellion symbol on Arugo's uniform and take him to Shu, who has now become a tyrannical leader of the school. Shu has ranked students based on the power of their voids and is recruiting strong students from other schools to build an empire within the academy. Upon meeting Shu, Arugo witnesses him forcing a girl to give up her voids for ranking. Shu informs him that he plans to take Ayas to a critical location, an abandoned ship that sank during a previous disaster. On this ship, Shu has been collecting military supplies using the lower-ranking members, who seem to be infected by a virus. The members who complete their tasks receive vaccines as a reward. However, a problem arises when an oxygen pump supplying air to Sauda, who is trapped at the bottom of the ship, begins to fail. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Shu decides they must help Sauda. However, he insists that Sauda must free himself. Arugo, unable to stand by, rushes to the nearby emergency pump, but Shu stops him by threatening him with a sigh. He explains that they are planning an escape from the quarantine zone and need all available resources. Shu chides Arugo, stating that due to the lack of resources, they must make tough choices. He reveals that he cannot release Arisa because her emptiness is vital for their escape. When Arugo refuses to comply, Shu chooses to imprison him. Meanwhile, Sauda manages to escape the ship on his own, while Arugo ends up locked in a cell. A robot created by Tsugumi arrives to inform Arugo of the recent events, revealing that after Hare's death, Shu established a kingdom based on voids, and people obey him out of fear. At the same time, Yu, who appears to be alive, gathers the rings he had prepared to marry Mana. Commander Kadu, who has been overseeing the academy, informs Makoto and Shu's mother that everything is going according to his plan. He notes that Shu has successfully gathered many voids within the school. Later, the former president goes to find Arugo but is stopped by a student who tries to overpower her. Ayas intervenes, threatening the student with a knife. Meanwhile, Shu stands next to Inori, who is trying to comfort him, but she seems to act strangely. Shu's focus shifts when his friends alert him that Arugo has escaped from his cell. Tsugumi helped Arugo by providing him with a key and neutralizing Ayas to keep her from sounding the alarm. Arugo tries to reach Arisa so they can escape together, but Shu stops him, leading to a fight where Arugo easily overpowers Shu. At that moment, Yahiro appears, aiming a gun at Arugo. However, some beams fall due to a vacuum that Shu had used, hitting a girl in the process. Shu leaps to save her, but in doing so, he accidentally destroys her void, causing her to turn into crystal and die. This revelation shocks Shu, who now understands that if someone's void is destroyed, they die with it. Arisa, witnessing this horrific scene, flees in fear. Shu then argues with Yahiro, who had previously told him that Hair died from a genetic weapon, but Shu realizes it was actually because of the destruction of her void. This shocking truth makes the idea of a realm based on voids extremely dangerous. Despite this, Yahiro argues that if he had not acted as he did, they all would have perished, and they must continue with their escape plan. Arugo tries to reason with Shu, but Shu attacks him, aiming to extract his emptiness. The former president then attempts to hide from Shu and the others. However, Inori, acting strangely, stops her and strikes her with a crystal spear. In a different scene, Keidu and a teacher manage to revive someone who appears to be Guy, adding to the tense atmosphere within the quarantine zone. Afterward, Shu heads to a guard post where some students are failing to do their duties correctly. Upon seeing this, Shu threatens to destroy their voids, prompting Yahiro to warn him about the potential negative effects of such a harsh approach. Yahiro fears that this could lead to resentment among the students toward Shu, but Shu believes that this is the only way to maintain discipline in their current situation. Meanwhile, Inori has a flashback about what happened, realizing she is losing control and acting against her own wishes. As a result of the recent events, Arisa feels scared. While she is in her room, she receives a call on her mobile phone and shares the situation at school with the person on the other end. However, during this call, she is spotted by a bully who has been watching her. To deal with this, Arisa flirts with the bully, successfully winning his favor. She uses this connection to send a message to all the students, revealing the consequences of having their voids destroyed. This message leads many students to turn against Shu, believing Arisa's claims that he is lying to them. Meanwhile, the world's major powers hold a meeting to discuss how to handle the threat posed by Japan to the rest of the world. They conclude that intervention is necessary. Later, Yahiro confronts Arisa, who has been pointed out as the main suspect in spreading rumors against Shu. During their conversation, Arisa warns Yahiro not to trust anyone, especially Inori, and she shares details about an attack she suffered from Inori. Inori, on the other hand, talks to Shu about the attack and how she feels she is changing. Shu reassures her that he will always protect her. Just then, Yahiro joins them and informs Shu about the attack carried out by Inori. He insists that she should be punished for her actions. However, Shu defends Inori and accuses Yahiro of hiding information about the voids. He threatens Yahiro with Inori's sword, forcing him to back down and demotes him to the lowest rank. Later, Arisa meets with the fugitive and seems to be using personal favors to obtain information about the escape plan from the quarantine zone. The boy gives her details about the date, time, and exact location of the operation. Arisa intends to use this information to challenge Shu's leadership. When the day of the escape arrives, the students gather at one of the ramp parts, but rumors of a coup attempt begin to circulate among them. Despite their preparations, Keidu is closely monitoring the situation and is devising measures against Shu. When Shu and his group arrive at the attack site, military forces quickly begin pursuing them. Shu orders an attack, seemingly with Arisa's cooperation, but despite their efforts, the mechas return fire indiscriminately, resulting in the deaths of several students. Using Inori's vacuum power, Shu charges forward and effectively defeats several mechas. His strategy is to reach a control tower that manages all the mechas in the area. As he advances, he faces multiple mechas, but with the help of a friend's void, he reaches the tower. Using a sword, he destroys the control center, disabling all the mechas and clearing the path for the students to escape the quarantine area. Once the escape is successful, the former president's plan unfolds. All the students turn their guns on Shu, pushing Inori away to prevent her from intervening. Subsequently, Sauda shoves Shu into a crater, accusing him of using them as mere tools. Inori attempts to rush to Shu's side, but suddenly a void sword pierces her. At this moment, several government agents arrive, revealing that the person behind this chaos is Guy, who has been resurrected by the military and has undergone significant changes. Guy approaches Shu, who is shocked by this revelation. In one swift move, Guy amputates the arm that held Shu's power, and then snatches that power away from him, causing Shu to fall into a state of disbelief over the unfolding events. As this situation escalates, global authorities decide to eliminate Japan in order to eradicate the virus threat, leading to an uncertain and dangerous future for everyone involved. As a result, fighter planes are sent to bomb Tokyo with chemical weapons. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Guy taps into the king's power to unite all the students' voids, creating a weapon that he uses to neutralize the warheads. However, this action leads to the weapon's destruction, resulting in the loss of several students. Despite efforts from Inori and others to reach out to Guy, he has changed and is no longer the person they once knew. He threatens them with death if they refuse to join him. In light of this, Hiro stands firm against Guy and decides to help Shu and his friends escape. He does this by destroying nearby mechas and confronting Guy directly. However, Guy easily defeats Hiro with the help of the other robots. Arisa steps in to protect Guy using her void, revealing that she was the one who provided information about the location of the student attack. Taking advantage of the distraction caused by Hiro's efforts, Inori successfully escapes with Shu. Following this, Guy uses his power to obliterate government fleets and sends a worldwide message threatening all nations. He warns that any attempts to attack Tokyo again or come too close will result in destruction via the Lucas Site satellite. Meanwhile, military forces organize a search team to locate Inori. The reason for this is that Yu plans to use her again to reunite with Mana, even intending to arrange a marriage with Guy. Inori, however, goes into hiding while searching for supplies to survive. Later, Haruka confesses that she worked with the military to free her son from the burden of the key's power. Inori eventually finds Shu and tries to feed him, but he is deeply troubled by everything that has happened. Just then, the military group that Arisa belongs to discovers Shu and Inori. As they prepare to attack, a limousine arrives, and armed men shoot at the soldiers. Arisa rushes in to intervene when she recognizes her father in the vehicle. The old man steps out of the car and criticizes Arisa for supporting Guy, arguing that the boy she once loved is no longer the same. He confronts the military, who clarify that their target is Inori, not Shu. Hearing this, Arisa's father decides to attack the military with his katana, killing 2 soldiers. He then turns on Arisa, believing her actions dishonor the family. Before he can hurt her, Arisa shoots him, killing him in self-defense. Meanwhile, Inori realizes that she is a target and attempts to escape, but a group of thugs surrounds her and tries to kidnap her. Witnessing this, Inori loses control again and kills the attackers in a fit of rage. Afterward, she approaches Shu and hugs him, but she again loses control and starts behaving inappropriately. Shu urges her to stop, and she eventually regains her composure. Later, Inori has a vision where she seemingly sees Mana. In this vision, it is revealed that Mana has been manipulating Inori's behavior. Mana tells Inori that she is about to take full control of her body, and that her first act will be to kill Shu. Realizing the danger, Inori decides to walk away from Shu. Before leaving, she gives him an emotional kiss and puts him to sleep to prevent him from stopping her. She then heads to surrender to Ayasa's military group, but first activates her berserker mode and engages in battle with the mechas. During the fight, Inori reflects on her genuine feelings for Shu despite being designed to host Mana. She resolves to protect Shu with her life. Unfortunately, she is captured when Guy shoots her with an arrow that immobilizes her. When Shu awakens and realizes that Inori is gone, he is determined to do everything he can to rescue her and bring her back to safety. After the chaotic events between Guy and Shu, Haruka decides to put a stop to Keido's plans, which involve eliminating Mana. When she reaches the place where Mana should be, she discovers that Mana is not there. At that moment, Keido appears and reveals that Mana was never there at all. He then confesses that he was responsible for Shu's father's death and unexpectedly shoots Haruka. Meanwhile, Arisa is on patrol with her squad when Shu surprises her from behind. He forces Arisa to tell him where Inori is hiding. At that exact moment, a message starts to broadcast through Ayasa's phone, alerting the entire military that Shu's mother has escaped and stolen a highly secure briefcase. In response to this urgent news, Shu pressures Arisa into taking him to find his mother. As a condition for her cooperation, Arisa agrees to share Guy's plans in exchange for Shu revealing Inori's location. Later, Haruka arrives at Ayasa's father's mansion, which is now under the leadership of a woman named Kirachi, following Ayasa's father's passing. Kirachi informs Haruka about the old man's death, and in return, Haruka shares her own story about how she escaped and tried to stop Keido's plans, including the elimination of Mana. This revelation surprises Kirachi because Mana is actually her daughter. Haruka explains that Shu is also Mana's brother, but she clarifies that Shu is not her biological son. She assumed the role of his stepmother after marrying Shu's father. Despite this connection, they have always maintained a certain distance from each other. Meanwhile, Makoto is determined to capture Haruka and manages to locate her. He shows up with a group of people who initially pretend to be looking for vaccines to combat the virus, lowering the guard of Kira's group. However, it turns out to be a trap, as Makoto and his guards open fire on everyone at the site. In the midst of the ambush, Ugumo saves Haruka and urges her to escape with Kirachi. As the two women flee, Ugumo confronts Makoto but is tragically killed in the fight. Despite this loss, Haruka and Kirachi manage to escape and decide to seek help from another group. On their way, Kirachi discovers the stolen briefcase and questions Haruka about what it contains. Haruka reveals that the briefcase holds a void genome, a device that possesses the king's power. When they finally reach Ai's group, Arugo informs the women about Agumo's death. Haruka and Arugo discuss the void genome, and Haruka explains how it can react negatively and self-destruct if used by someone who is not compatible. She hesitates to give it to Shu because she fears it may cause him more pain. Just then, their base is attacked by mechas controlled by Makoto. While on the way to help his mother, Shu jumps out of the car to assist her. As they try to escape, Aya suggests that Haruka use the void genome to stop the mechas. However, Makoto interrupts and reveals his plan to take over the void genome because he is fascinated by its power. He attempts to take the device, but Makoto stops him. In the midst of the chaos, the void genome falls, and despite his mother's warnings, Shu picks it up. Ignoring the risks, Shu decides to inject himself with the void genome to regain the king's power. As he does this, his right arm, which had been severed earlier, crystallizes with green veins, revealing his own void. This newfound power allows him to extract and use similar voids at their maximum capacity while absorbing the virus from others using his friend's voids. With his enhanced abilities, Shu defeats the mechas and stops Makoto, who attempts to run him over with a truck. In a final confrontation, Shu uses his new void to destroy Makoto's soul and cure Saoda's illness, effectively putting an end to the virus that has plagued them all. This victory marks a significant turning point in their struggle against the chaos surrounding them. Keidu reports everything that has occurred to Guy, who sees the immediate priority as the return of Mana. Mana is increasingly gaining control over Inori's body, and she is currently held at a military base. In response to the situation, Guy issues a new global message, announcing that due to the many attacks he has faced in recent days, he has decided to wipe out humanity. He also reveals the date when he will start these attacks. Meanwhile, Shu and the other insurgents come together to strategize on how to stop Guy. At this crucial moment, Shibungi joins them to explain Guy's plans, which include spreading a deadly virus worldwide to eliminate all living beings on the planet. He hands Shu a diary that Guy had given him, which belonged to Shu's father. Guy sent this diary to Shu to reveal the truth about his origins. Keidu also shares a story with Guy about how he met Shu's father, Kirasu, during their university days. Initially, Keidu was a lonely person, but his life took a turn when he met Kirasu, who was a passionate admirer of his research. As they worked together, they formed a strong friendship. One day, Keidu stumbled upon Kirasu with what seemed to be Shu's real mother, and soon after, they got married and moved to a place where a strange rock, known as the Apocalyptic Rock, had fallen. This rock, discovered by Mana, led Keidu and Kirasu to conduct joint research. During this time, Yu appeared before them, revealing his plan to destroy humanity to create a new world with Mana. Tragically, during her pregnancy, Shu's real mother got infected by the apocalyptic virus, and Mana chose her as his partner to help her populate the world. Yu allowed Shu to live until his mother passed away during childbirth. Kirasu opposed Yu's plans upon learning the truth and refused to join his cause. Eventually, Keidu began to collaborate with Yu, and together they conducted experiments on children to find the perfect match for Mana. Guy was one of those children who managed to escape and was later found by Mana and Shu near the sea. In another part of the story, Haruka reflects on her past with Shu's father, Kirasu. She had joined Kirasu's research group, and while they worked together, she fell in love with his dedication to researching the virus. Eventually, he decided to marry Haruka, and she told Keidu, his older brother, about her plans. However, Keidu disapproved of the relationship. Despite his objections, Haruka was determined to marry Kirasu. The situation changed drastically on the day the virus broke out. Haruka was in a church with Mana, waiting for Kirasu, while Keidu infiltrated Kirasu's office to check on the progress of the virus research. In his search, he found Kirasu's diary, which detailed the discovery of the void genome and how it could potentially stop the virus. When Kirasu arrived, an argument broke out. Keidu tried to persuade him to join Yu, but Kirasu refused to share his findings. Enraged, Keidu threatened him, and when Kirasu still wouldn't comply, Keidu killed him and took his research. Back in the present, Shu completes his medical exams. Haruka warns him about the dangers of absorbing the virus and tells him that it might already be too late to save Inori, as Mana is inside her and will eventually take over completely. Despite these dire warnings, Shu refuses to give up and is determined to rescue Inori. Haruka hugs him tightly and cries, then tells him that the helicopter is about to take off. Before leaving, Shu attempts to return the voids to his friends, but Yahiro insists that they have all decided he will use their voids during the mission. After an emotional farewell with Sauda, Shu goes on his mission to rescue Inori and put a stop to Guy's plans. After Guy receives a warning that the United Nations has sent an army to attack him, he starts getting ready for the fight. Shu and the others prepare for their plan to defeat Guy. During this time, Shu meets Ayase, who asks for his help to climb into her mecha. As they talk, Shu helps her and compliments her appearance, which makes Ayase blush. She then asks Shu if he believes he can face Guy if given the chance. Shu confidently assures her that he would not hesitate to confront Guy. He also apologizes for using his null ability against him. Ias reassures him, saying it was her choice to give him the void, and she hopes it will be useful to him. The attack on the military base begins with helicopters deploying mecha. Guy uses Ias's void and others to create a massive bow that shoots energy arrows, destroying parts of the enemy fleet. Meanwhile, Shu and his group manage to sneak into the base. Tsugumi uses a hacking program developed by Haruka to disable the enemy machines, allowing their army ships to join the battle. Shu moves forward with Sauda's vacuum. After separating from his team, he sets out to save Inori. Using the voids of Arisa and others, Guy crystallizes Inori, causing her to emerge as Mana before losing consciousness. Inori thanks Shu for saving her and expresses how happy she is to meet him. Guy doesn't understand the bond between Shu and Inori, but she explains that Shu showed her the beauty and sadness of the world despite all her struggles. Even though Inori is a vessel for Mana, she falls completely in love with Shu. As Shu's team rushes to reach Inori, the military regains control of the base. Inori becomes enveloped by the crystal as she sings a song for Shu. He hears her song and follows its sound to find her. At that moment, Yu appears and confronts Shu, revealing that he is an alien envoy sent to create a new world. He offers Shu a chance to join forces with Mana to form a new race, but Shu firmly rejects this offer. Angered, Yu decides to eliminate Shu and uses his genome power to attack him with the voids of his minions. Shu defends himself by dodging and counterattacking with Yahiro's void, while the others try to advance to help him. However, Yan stops them from interfering. Shu continues to face Yu, who criticizes him for rejecting Mana. In a fierce battle, Shu manages to defeat Yu, but when he finally reaches Guy and Inori, he discovers that it is too late. Guy has completed the crystallization process, and Mana has now emerged fully, marking the start of the apocalypse. In a different location, the rebellion continues its efforts to reach Shu, who confronts Yan and his modified mecha. While Tsugumi struggles to take back control of the base, she faces constant interruptions from Kenji, who has joined forces with the military. Meanwhile, Mana awakens and rushes to Shu, expressing hatred toward Inori, whom she sees as a monster. Hearing this, Shu becomes furious and pushes Mana away, defending Inori and declaring that she is not a monster. In response, Mana, enraged by Shu's rejection, prepares to attack him. However, Guy steps in to stop her, announcing that he will handle Shu himself. Guy uses his genome ability to extract the void from Mana and alter their surroundings. Mana warns Shu that he will regret rejecting her and begins a ritual that will deactivate the mecha and spread the apocalyptic virus across the globe. As a result, thousands of people turn into crystals and perish, with Guy proclaiming this as the true apocalypse for humanity. He then charges at Shu with his sword, and Shu counters with his own powers. Meanwhile, Yan brutally attacks Ias and the others. Arugo uses a machine gun to help Ias escape, but Yan's mecha, powered by void energy, starts to get infected by the apocalyptic virus. Shu continues his battle with Guy, trying to reason with him, but Guy, now transformed and bitter, criticizes Shu for turning his back on Mana. Guy strikes Shu with his sword. Elsewhere, Haruka confronts Keidu, aiming a gun at him. Back in the fight, Guy is about to finish off Shu, who contemplates giving up. Just then, he hears Inori's voice through a crystal rose left behind. Inori encourages Shu to keep fighting, expressing her belief in him. The connection with Inori's flower stops Mana's attack and deactivates Yan's mecha. Shibungi confronts and defeats Kenji, allowing Tsugumi to regain control of the situation. Shu summons Inori's sword, tapping into its full power while Ias and Tsugumi work together to destroy Yan's mecha. Shu charges his sword with the combined strength of his and Inori's powers, landing a final blow on Guy. He is transported inside Guy's mind, where he meets the real Guy. Guy reveals that he has always loved Mana and asks Shu to save Inori by giving her his void energy. Upon returning, Shu finds Inori, who has managed to control Mana. However, Inori is still heavily affected by the apocalyptic virus. Faced with this challenge, Shu decides to absorb the virus from the people and their voids, merging the two genomes. As he does this, the building around them begins to collapse, forcing his friends to escape. Despite the danger, Shu continues to absorb the virus, ultimately becoming a crystal alongside Inori. In an unexpected twist, Shu has a vision where Inori gives him a red thread. This thread breaks his crystal and frees him, but this action causes Inori to disappear, and the building collapses, seemingly taking Shu with it. His friends, left behind, regret not being able to help him. The story then jumps 5 years into the future. Shu's friends are preparing for a dinner party when, to their surprise, Shu appears. He seems undead but blind, sitting on a bench while listening to the songs Inori used to sing. Thanks for watching till this long, my fellow men of culture. Don't forget to tell us about your favorite waifu from this anime and subscribe to the channel for more content.